Interstellar observers gasped as a human tore the heart from a cosmic predator. Transformed by alien crystal, Colonel Lara Kent plunged her crystalline arms into the dark mass of the void creature, enduring excruciating pain as her flesh dissolved. Pushing deeper, she formed her disintegrating hands into blades and struck the predator's core. The universe trembled as ancient energies exploded outward, her sacrifice creating something neither human nor alien. The soft hum of the environmental systems provided a constant backdrop to the quiet activity on the observation deck. Colonel Lara Kent stood with her back straight, arms folded behind her as she gazed out through the massive viewport. Beyond the reinforced, transparent aluminum lay the vast emptiness of space, punctuated by the distant stars and the looming presence of Epsilon Theta below. The planet hung like a dead thing, its surface a mottled gray-brown, devoid of the vibrant blues and greens that characterized habitable worlds. Yet it was not the planet itself that had brought the Iteris Alliance's most advanced research vessel to this remote corner of charted space. "Status report," Lara commanded, her voice carrying the weight of authority that came with 15 years of service in the Alliance's Experimental Sciences Division. Behind her, holographic displays flickered as her crew worked at their stations. The research chamber of the Iteris Observation Station Epsilon was a marvel of 24th century engineering, a perfect blend of functionality and comfort, designed to keep a crew of 30 specialists operating at peak efficiency during extended missions. "All systems nominal, Colonel," replied Milo Tran, the ship's chief genetic engineer. His fingers danced across the controls of his workstation, manipulating complex strands of data. "The cellular morphing equipment is operating at 98% efficiency. The latest batch of test results shows promising adaptation rates." Lara nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. The year was 2374, and humanity had spread across 3 star systems, forming the core of the Iteris Alliance, along with 2 non-human species. The era of interstellar exploration was still in its infancy, but the technological leaps of the past century had opened possibilities that her ancestors could only dream of. Chief among these was the cellular morphing technology, a revolutionary approach that allowed human cells to temporarily adopt characteristics of other life forms, conferring advantages in hostile environments. "And the signal?" she asked, turning to face her crew. "The real reason for their presence orbiting this dead world." Dr. Ilandra Sui, the station's xenobiologist and psychology specialist, looked up from her console. Her eyes reflected the blue glow of her holographic display. "Still emanating from the same coordinates, Colonel. The biological signature remains consistent, though we're detecting subtle modulations that weren't present yesterday." This was what had brought them here. 3 weeks ago, an automated probe had detected an anomalous biological signal emanating from Epsilon Theta, a planet long classified as dead, incapable of supporting complex life. The signal defied conventional analysis, exhibiting patterns that suggested both biological and technological components. Lara moved to Ilandra's station, examining the waveform display. "These modulations, they almost look like respiration patterns." "That was my assessment as well," Ilandra replied, her voice tinged with professional curiosity. "But if that's the case, we're talking about something massive. The amplitude suggests a biological entity at least 300 meters in length." A whispered conversation broke out among the junior crew members. Lara silenced them with a glance. "Theories, people. I want theories, not speculation." Milo stepped forward, bringing up a 3-dimensional model on the main display. "Based on the signal characteristics, we could be looking at a hibernating organism. The planet's surface is inhospitable, but our deep scans show extensive cave systems that could provide shelter. If something evolved there, or was placed there." "Placed?" Lara raised an eyebrow. We can't discount the possibility of artificial introduction, Milo explained. This star system was mapped nearly 50 years ago. If something this significant was naturally occurring, the initial surveys should have detected it. Lara turned back to the viewport, considering the implications. The mission parameters were clear. Investigate the anomalous signal, collect data, and determine whether it represented a potential benefit or threat to Alliance interests. The cellular morphing technology they were testing was intended to give Alliance explorers an edge in adapting to alien environments. But it had never been deployed against an unknown biological entity of this magnitude. Prepare a scout vessel, she decided. I want a closer look at the source. Colonel, Alandra interjected, concern evident in her voice. Alliance protocol recommends remote observation for at least 72 hours before direct contact with unknown biological phenomena. Noted, Dr. Sui. Lara replied coolly. But this mission operates under experimental sciences jurisdiction. We're here to test boundaries, not observe them from a safe distance. The tension in the room thickened. This was the divide that had been growing among the crew since they'd detected the signal. The scientific personnel, led by Alandra, advocated for caution. The experimental division, under Lara's command, pushed for active engagement. It was more than a difference in methodology. It represented fundamentally different philosophies about humanity's place in the cosmos. As the crew dispersed to prepare for the scout mission, Lara remained at the viewport. The cellular morphing technology represented the culmination of her life's work, a means for humanity to adapt rather than conquer, to understand alien life on its own terms rather than through the distorted lens of human perception. If the signal below represented a new form of life, it could provide invaluable data for the project. What she didn't share with her crew was the pressure from Alliance Command. The cellular morphing project was expensive, controversial, and under constant threat of funding cuts. She needed results, breakthroughs that would justify the resources allocated to her team. A successful adaptation to a previously unknown life form would silence her critics and secure the future of the project. In the privacy of her thoughts, Lara acknowledged the risk, but risk was the price of progress, and progress was what kept humanity reaching for the stars. The intercom chimed, interrupting her contemplation. "Colonel," came Milo's voice, "the scout vessel is prepped and ready for deployment." "Excellent," she responded. "Assemble the reconnaissance team in Hangar Bay 2. I'll be there shortly." As she moved to leave the observation deck, a sudden tremor ran through the station. The lights flickered momentarily, and several alarms began to sound. "Report!" Lara barked into her communicator. "Unknown energy surge from the planet's surface," came the urgent response from the operations center. It's the signal, Colonel. It just increased in strength by a factor of 10. Lara broke into a run, heading for the operations center. As she reached it, chaos greeted her. Crew members moved frantically between stations. Displays flashed warning signals, and through the viewports, she could see something impossible. A luminous shape was rising from the planet's surface, a colossal serpentine form that pulsed with internal light. It moved with impossible grace for something of its size, undulating through the vacuum of space like a terrestrial sea creature might swim through water. "All stations, battle alert," Lara commanded, her training taking over. "Defensive shields to maximum. Track that entity and maintain safe distance." "Colonel!" called out one of the sensor operators, his voice cracking with tension. "The entity's biological signature. It's a perfect match for the signal we've been monitoring. But it's not just alive. Our readings suggest it's aware, and possibly sentient." On the main screen, magnified imagery showed the creature in terrifying detail. Its body was translucent, revealing a complex internal structure unlike anything in the Alliance biological database. Crystalline formations ran along what appeared to be a central nervous system, pulsing with light in patterns too regular to be random. "It's beautiful," whispered Alandra, who had entered the operations center behind Lara. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared again, more urgent this time. "The entity is changing course," reported the tactical officer. "It's moving toward the station. Current velocity suggests intercept in approximately 8 minutes." "Is it responding to our presence?" Lara demanded. "Unknown, but the timing of its emergence correlates with our probe activities in the area." Lara made a split-second decision. "Continue with the scout mission. If that thing is aware of us, I want to know why. If it's a threat, I need to know what we're dealing with." "Colonel, with all due respect," Alandra protested, "we should be evacuating, not engaging. We have no idea what that creature is capable of." "Which is precisely why we need more information," Lara countered. "The station's shields can withstand meteorite impacts. They'll hold against a biological entity. Meanwhile, this is exactly the type of encounter the cellular morphing technology was designed for. We adapt, we survive, we understand." Alandra's expression hardened, but she offered no further objection. The divide between them had never been more apparent. "I'll lead the scout team myself," Lara announced, heading for the exit. "Milo, you're with me. Dr. Sui, you have command of the station. Maintain observation and keep the shields at maximum power." As Lara and Milo made their way to the hangar bay, the station trembled again. Through the corridor viewports, they could see the creature more clearly now. It had grown closer, its massive form eclipsing the stars behind it. Its movement remained graceful, purposeful, as if the vacuum of space was its natural environment. In the hangar bay, a team of 4 specialists was already boarding the scout vessel, a sleek craft designed for maneuverability and stealth rather than combat. Lara approached the equipment locker and removed a specialized containment suit, the delivery mechanism for the cellular morphing technology. "Are you sure about this, Colonel?" Milo asked quietly, as he helped her check the suit's systems. "The morphing technology has never been tested in a live encounter scenario. Every breakthrough begins with a first application," Lara replied, sealing the suit's connections. "Besides, we're just gathering data. We maintain safe distance, record everything, and return to the station. No heroics." Milo didn't look convinced, but he nodded and prepared his own equipment. As the station's lead genetic engineer, he had been instrumental in developing the cellular morphing technology. His concerns were technical rather than philosophical. He understood the risks of deploying an experimental system against an unknown entity. The scout vessel departed minutes later, slipping through the station's atmospheric containment field and into the void. Lara took the pilot's position, with Milo beside her managing the sensor array. The craft's engines hummed quietly as they accelerated toward the creature, which had paused its approach to the station and now hung motionless in space. "Commencing detailed scan," Milo reported, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Biological readings are extraordinary. The creature's cellular structure appears to be in constant flux, reconfiguring itself on a molecular level." "Similar to our morphing technology?" Lara asked, maintaining their approach vector. "Similar in concept, but vastly more advanced. This isn't adaptation. It's spontaneous evolution happening in real time." Milo's voice carried the unmistakable tone of scientific awe. "Colonel, if we could understand this process, it could revolutionize the morphing technology. We're talking about cellular regeneration beyond anything we've achieved." Lara felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of discovery that could secure the project's future. "How close do we need to be for a viable tissue sample?" Milo hesitated. "In theory, our collection drones could extract a sample from a distance of 50 meters. But given the unknown nature of the entity, I'd recommend extreme caution." "Noted," Lara replied, adjusting their course to bring them around the creature's flank rather than approaching head-on. We'll maintain 100 meters and deploy drones only if conditions remain stable. As they closed distance, the creature's massive scale became apparent. What had appeared serpentine from a distance revealed itself to be more complex, a central body with elongated appendages that rippled and shifted, sometimes merging back into the main mass before extending again in new configurations. "It's changing," observed one of the specialists in the rear compartment. "The structure wasn't like that a minute ago." "Confirmed," Milo reported, studying the sensor readings. "Its morphology is in constant flux, almost as if it's trying different forms." Lara brought the scout vessel to a relative stop, maintaining their planned distance from the entity. "Deploy observation drones. Let's get a closer look without risking the ship." 3 small drones detached from the vessel's exterior, their propulsion systems guiding them closer to the creature. Each was equipped with a comprehensive sensor package and sample collection tools. Their feed appeared on the main display, showing the creature's surface in microscopic detail. "The outer membrane appears crystalline," Milo observed. "But it behaves like living tissue. I've never seen anything like it." On the screen, they watched as one of the drones extended a collection needle toward a thinner section of the creature's body. As the needle approached, the crystalline surface rippled. "Wait," Lara began, a warning instinct flaring. "Pull back the—" Before she could complete the command, the creature's surface bulged outward with explosive force. A crystalline tendril lashed out, enveloping the drone in seconds. The drone's signal cut out immediately. "Evasive maneuvers," Lara commanded, her hands flying over the controls. The scout vessel banked sharply away from the creature. Too late. The creature's entire form convulsed, and then it was moving, not the languid, graceful movement they had observed before, but a violent, purposeful surge in their direction. One of its appendages stretched, transforming into a whip-like tendril that slashed through space toward them. Lara pushed the engines to maximum, but the tendril caught the vessel's rear section, sending them into a spin. Warning alarms blared as systems failed across the board. "Stabilizers offline!" Milo shouted over the noise. "Hull breach in the rear compartment! Emergency seals engaged!" Lara fought with the controls, trying to arrest their spin as the creature closed in. Through the viewport, she could see its massive form approaching, internal lights pulsing more rapidly now, shifting from blue to a deep, angry red. "The station!" she gasped, realizing their trajectory. The damaged scout vessel was spinning directly toward the Iteris observation station, with the creature in pursuit. She managed to activate the emergency communication system. "Station control, this is Scout 1. We are on collision course with hostile entity in pursuit. Activate all defensive measures and prepare for impact." The response came fragmented through static. "Understood. Defensive systems. Evacuation procedures." As they tumbled closer to the station, Lara made a desperate decision. "Milo, help me with the morphing suit. I'm going EVA." His eyes widened. "Colonel, that's suicide. Even if the suit functions properly, you can't possibly—" "We don't have a choice," she cut him off. "The creature is following us. If it reaches the station, everyone dies. The morphing technology is our only unknown variable, the only thing that might confuse or deter it." Understanding dawned in Milo's expression, followed by grim determination. He helped her activate the suit's advanced functions. Unlike standard EVA equipment, the cellular morphing suit was designed to interface directly with the wearer's biology, temporarily altering cellular structures to mimic environmental conditions or, theoretically, other life forms. "I've programmed the suit to analyze the creature's outer cellular structure and adapt accordingly," Milo explained hurriedly as the ship continued its uncontrolled tumble. "But Lara, we have no idea how your body will react to these adaptations. The stress could—" "Time's up," she interrupted, sealing her helmet. "Get everyone to the escape pods and evacuate to the station. That's an order." Without waiting for a response, Lara moved to the airlock. The ship's systems were failing rapidly. She had minutes at most before catastrophic failure. As the outer door cycled open, she caught a last glimpse of Milo's face. Concern, admiration, and something else she couldn't identify before the vacuum of space claimed her. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming. As she pushed away from the crippled scout vessel, the morphing suit detected the creature's biological signature and began its work. Pain lanced through every cell in her body as the nanotechnology within the suit interfaced with her genetic material, inducing temporary mutations designed to mimic the creature's outer structure. Her vision blurred, then sharpened to an almost painful clarity. She could feel her skin hardening, taking on properties of the crystalline substance that composed the creature's exterior. The suit's heads-up display flashed warnings about elevated heart rate and cellular stress. But Lara pushed the information aside, focusing on her goal. The creature had paused its pursuit of the scout vessel, its attention now fixed on Lara's floating form. Through her enhanced vision, she could see details invisible to normal human perception, complex patterns flowing beneath its translucent surface, a network of energy pathways that pulsed with what could only be described as information. Lara activated her suit's propulsion system, moving deliberately toward the creature rather than away from it. It was a gamble based on a theory that the creature had attacked because it perceived them as a threat or an intrusion. By adopting aspects of its biology and approaching alone, she hoped to trigger a different response. For several heart-stopping moments, the creature remained motionless, its appendages undulating gently in the vacuum. Then, with a suddenness that left Lara gasping, it moved, not to attack, but to retreat. It backed away from her advancing form, creating distance between them. "It's working," she whispered to herself, continuing her approach. The suit's communication system relayed her words to the station, where she knew Elandra and the remaining crew would be monitoring her vital signs and actions. "Colonel, your cellular structure is destabilizing," came Elandra's voice, tight with concern. "The morphing process is proceeding too rapidly. You need to return to the station immediately." Lara ignored the warning. The creature was moving again, not retreating further, but changing direction, heading toward the planet's surface. It was still maintaining distance from her, but its behavior had shifted from aggression to what almost seemed like curiosity. "I'm following it down," Lara decided, adjusting her trajectory to match the creature's descent. "Negative. Colonel." Elandra's voice was sharp now. "Planetary descent exceeds the suit's operational parameters. The atmospheric entry will destroy both you and the morphing technology." But Lara had seen something in the creature's movement. A purpose. An intelligence that defied classification as mere animal behavior. This was a sentient being, and it was leading her somewhere. The potential knowledge to be gained outweighed the risk to her personal safety. "Transmitting all data to station servers," she responded, checking her suit's systems. "Continue recording and analysis. I'm proceeding with descent." The creature accelerated, diving toward Epsilon Theta's atmosphere with a grace that belied its enormous size. Lara followed, pushing her suit's propulsion system beyond recommended limits. As they approached the planet's upper atmosphere, the creature's form began to glow, not with the expected friction of atmospheric entry, but with an internal light that seemed to create a field around it. Lara braced herself for the heat and turbulence of entry. But as she entered the creature's wake, she experienced neither. The field it generated extended just far enough to encompass her smaller form, creating a protected corridor through the atmosphere. "Impossible," she breathed, watching as the desolate surface of Epsilon Theta rushed up to meet them. The planet's landscape was a blasted wasteland of rocky outcroppings and dust plains, with no sign of the life-supporting environment such a creature would require. The creature descended toward a massive impact crater, its edges worn smooth by eons of erosion. At the center of the crater, barely visible from Lara's perspective, was a dark opening. the entrance to what appeared to be a vast cave system. The creature slowed as it approached the entrance, its form compressing and elongating to slip through the opening. Lara hesitated, hovering above the crater's edge. Her suit's sensors indicated a breathable atmosphere within the cave, but the opening was narrow, barely large enough for her to pass through while wearing the bulky morphing suit. "Colonel, we've lost visual on the entity," came Alandra's voice, distorted by interference from the planet's magnetic field. "Satellite imagery shows your position at the Meridian crater. Be advised, subsurface scans reveal an extensive cave network with unusual energy signatures." "Acknowledged," Lara replied, making her decision. "I'm proceeding into the cave system. The creature appears to be leading me to something. Maintain communication as long as possible." "Lara!" Alandra's voice softened, using her first name for the first time since the mission began. "Please be careful. We're detecting multiple biological signatures converging on your location. You may not be dealing with a single entity." The warning sent a chill through Lara, despite the suit's regulated temperature. "Understood. If communication fails, initiate Protocol Omega. The data we've collected is too valuable to risk losing." Protocol Omega was a last resort, a directive to evacuate the system and return to Alliance space with all collected data, regardless of the fate of personnel left behind. It was not a decision Lara made lightly, but the implications of what they had discovered outweighed individual considerations. Taking a deep breath, she navigated through the narrow opening and into the cave beyond. The passageway widened immediately into a vast chamber, its walls glittering with embedded crystals that cast prismatic reflections across the space. The creature had moved to the center of the chamber, its form undulating gently as if waiting for her. Lara's suit sensors recorded everything: the unusual composition of the air, the energy readings emanating from the crystalline formations, and most importantly, the creature's biological signatures. The data would be transmitted to the station for as long as communication remained possible. As she propelled herself further into the chamber, the creature's form began to change again. Its elongated body contracted, forming a more compact shape. Appendages withdrew into the main mass, and the pulsing lights beneath its surface slowed to a steady, rhythmic glow. "It's changing its configuration," Lara reported, maintaining her distance. "Possibly adapting to the confined space or preparing for some form of communication." The suit's analysis of the creature's biology continued, feeding information directly to Lara's neural interface. The results were staggering. The creature's genetic structure was unlike anything recorded in Alliance databases, with complexities that suggested either artificial engineering far beyond current technology or an evolutionary path utterly alien to known biological principles. What happened next defied Lara's expectations. The creature extended a portion of its mass toward her, forming what appeared to be a tendril similar to the one that had damaged the scout vessel. But instead of attacking, it stopped a meter from her position, the end flattening and expanding to create a disc-like surface. Across this surface, patterns of light began to form, geometric shapes arranged in sequences that repeated with subtle variations. Lara recognized the mathematical progression immediately: prime numbers, followed by basic geometric ratios, universal constants that would be recognizable to any technologically advanced species. "It's attempting communication," she whispered, awe evident in her voice. "Basic mathematical concepts as a foundation for shared understanding." The suit's systems were recording everything, transmitting the data back to the station even as Lara considered how to respond. The cellular morphing technology had been designed to adapt human biology to alien environments, not to facilitate communication with alien intelligence. Yet the creature had recognized her adapted form as something worthy of interaction rather than destruction, acting on instinct rather than protocol. Lara extended her own arm toward the creature's communication surface. The morphing suit had given her outer tissues properties similar to the creature's crystalline structure. Perhaps it would allow for a more direct form of exchange. As her gloved hand made contact with the creature's surface, a jolt of energy surged through the suit and into her nervous system. Lara gasped as her consciousness expanded, her perception shifting to encompass something vast and incomprehensible. Images flooded her mind, not visual information as humans understood it, but complex sensory impressions that her brain struggled to translate. She saw, felt, understood that the creature was not a singular entity, but a colony, a collective of smaller organisms functioning as a unified whole. It had existed for millennia, traversing the void between stars in search of others like itself. The cave system was not natural but constructed, an ancient outpost built by beings long vanished from the galaxy. The crystals embedded in the walls were not mere minerals, but data storage devices of incalculable capacity, containing the accumulated knowledge of a civilization that had seeded life throughout this sector of space. And most critically, Lara understood that the creature had not attacked the scout vessel out of aggression, but out of self-preservation. The collection needle had been interpreted as a weapon, triggering a defensive response hardwired into the collective's behavior. The connection broke as suddenly as it had formed, leaving Lara disoriented and gasping within her suit. The creature had withdrawn its communication tendril and was moving again, deeper into the cave system through a passage that had not been visible moments before. "Follow," came a voice in Lara's mind, not audible but unmistakable. The collective had established a rudimentary link with her consciousness, using the morphing suit's neural interface as a conduit. "Station, are you receiving?" Lara called, knowing the transmission would be degraded by the cave's mineral composition. "The entity is non-hostile and has established limited communication. I'm proceeding deeper into the cave system to maintain contact." Only static answered her, but the suit systems confirmed that data was still being transmitted, even if voice communication had failed. Lara followed the creature, navigating through passages that twisted and turned, descending deeper beneath the planet's surface. The journey continued for what felt like hours, though Lara's suit chronometer indicated less than 30 minutes had passed. The passages eventually opened into another chamber, this one dwarfing the first. The space was vast enough to contain the Ateris station itself, its ceiling lost in darkness above. The walls were entirely composed of the crystalline material, arranged in patterns that suggested artificial construction rather than natural formation. At the chamber's center stood a structure unlike anything Lara had encountered in her years of space exploration. It resembled a tree, its trunk and branches formed from the same crystalline substance as the cave walls, but pulsing with internal light that shifted through colors beyond the normal human visual spectrum. The creature moved toward this structure, its form elongating again as it approached. Lara followed cautiously, her suit's sensors working overtime to analyze the energy signatures emanating from the crystal tree. The readings were unprecedented, patterns that suggested both biological processes and technological functions occurring simultaneously within the structure. "Heart," came the voice in her mind again, clearer now. "Life, knowledge, purpose." As Lara approached the crystal tree, she began to understand. This was not merely a structure, it was a biological repository, a living database containing the collective's accumulated knowledge and possibly its reproductive mechanisms. The creature had brought her here deliberately, sharing something of immense significance to its existence. The implications were staggering. If the Alliance could understand and access this knowledge, it could advance human technology by centuries. The cellular morphing project would be just the beginning. Whole new fields of science could emerge from studying the collective's biological engineering. But as Lara moved closer to the crystal tree, her suit's neural interface began to pick up something else, a sense of urgency, of danger. The collective was not merely sharing, it was warning. Images formed in her mind. The crystal tree deteriorating, its light dimming, the collective fragmenting, losing cohesion, and behind it all, a presence, something vast and predatory moving through interstellar space, hunting the fragments of the collective across multiple star systems. Predator, the voice confirmed. Comes, soon. Lara's training asserted itself through her awe. What kind of predator? Another species? A natural phenomenon? The response came not in words but in impressions, a force of consumption, ancient and patient, that fed on precisely the kind of energy the collective and its crystal repositories generated. It did not think as organic life thought. It simply existed to consume and grow. And it was coming to Epsilon Theta, drawn by the energy signature of the crystal tree. How long? Lara asked, her mind racing through strategic possibilities. The Alliance had weapons that could potentially defend against such a threat, but deploying them would require time and authorization from command. Now, came the response, accompanied by a surge of alarm that nearly overwhelmed Lara's consciousness. The chamber trembled, dust and small crystals raining from the unseen ceiling. The collective's form contracted, gathering around the base of the crystal tree in what Lara interpreted as a protective formation. Through the neural link, Lara experienced the collective's sensory perception. Something massive had entered the planet's atmosphere, its approach creating gravitational disturbances that rippled through the cave system. Unlike the collective, this entity did not navigate carefully through the passages. It simply burrowed through solid rock, drawn inexorably to the energy source at the heart of the planet. Lara's suit alarms blared as the chamber's atmospheric pressure fluctuated wildly. The crystal tree's pulsing light accelerated, shifting predominantly to deep crimson hues that bathed the chamber in blood-red illumination. "What can I do?" Lara demanded, knowing her options were limited. The morphing suit provided some enhanced capabilities, but it was designed for adaptation, not combat. The collective's response came as a series of rapid impressions. The crystal tree's central core, a concentration of energy that could be disrupted. The predator's feeding mechanism, vulnerable during the initial consumption phase. And most disturbingly, the cellular morphing technology Lara wore, compatible with the crystal tree's core in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. "Merge," the collective urged. "Take, use, defend." Before Lara could process the full implications, the chamber wall opposite the entrance exploded inward. Through the dust and debris emerged a form that defied description, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the crystal tree's light. It had no discernible shape, constantly flowing and reforming as it advanced into the chamber. Where it touched the crystal walls, the material darkened and crumbled. The collective moved to intercept, its form stretching into a barrier between the predator and the crystal tree. The two entities collided in a silent explosion of energy that sent Lara tumbling backward despite the suit's stabilizers. Through the neural link, she felt the collective's pain as the predator began to consume its outer layers. The sensation was excruciating, a combination of physical agony and existential horror that threatened to overwhelm her consciousness. The collective was losing, its mass visibly diminishing as the predator absorbed it piece by piece. Desperation flooded the neural link, along with a final, urgent command. "Heart, take, now." Lara understood. The crystal tree's core, the heart of the collective's knowledge and power, needed to be protected at all costs. The collective was sacrificing itself to buy time, but it wouldn't be enough. The predator would consume everything in the chamber, including Lara herself, if she didn't act. Moving with the enhanced speed the morphing suit provided, Lara circled the ongoing battle and approached the crystal tree from behind. Its trunk had split open during the predator's attack, revealing the core within, a pulsating sphere of crystalline material that shone with blinding intensity. Lara's suit sensors warned of extreme energy levels, far beyond what the morphing technology was designed to handle. Direct contact would likely overload the suit's systems and cause catastrophic failure. But there was no alternative. The collective was moments from complete consumption. With a silent prayer to whatever cosmic forces might be listening, Lara plunged her suited hands into the tree's exposed core. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Energy surged through the morphing suit and into her body. The nanotechnology that facilitated cellular adaptation acting as a conduit for the core's power. Pain, beyond description, engulfed her as her cells began to change. Not in the controlled manner the suit was designed to manage, but in a fundamental restructuring of her genetic code. The crystal core liquefied at her touch, flowing over her hands and arms, merging with the suit material, and then with her flesh beneath. Through a haze of agony, Lara became aware that the battle behind her had paused. The predator had sensed the disturbance in the energy field and was turning its attention toward her and the core. The collective, reduced to less than half its original mass, used the momentary reprieve to retreat to the far side of the chamber. Lara turned to face the predator, her transformation still ongoing. The morphing suit had been compromised, sections of it falling away as her body incorporated the crystal core's material directly into her cellular structure. Her vision had altered, expanding to perceive spectra beyond normal human range, allowing her to see the predator's true nature, a void in the energy field of reality itself, consuming everything it touched. As the predator surged toward her, Lara acted on instinct, driven by the knowledge flowing from the crystal core into her consciousness. She extended her transformed arms, now gleaming with the same crystalline substance as the tree, and channeled the core's energy outward. A beam of concentrated light erupted from her hands, striking the predator's amorphous form. Where the light touched, the darkness recoiled, its edges crisping and disintegrating like paper in flame. The predator emitted no sound, but Lara felt its rage and pain rippling through the energy field surrounding them. The attack had hurt it, but not stopped it. The predator reformed, abandoning its assault on the collective to focus entirely on Lara and the power she now wielded. It moved with terrifying speed, surrounding her in a contracting sphere of void-like darkness. Lara fought to maintain concentration as the transformation continued throughout her body. The crystal core's energy was rewriting her on a fundamental level, granting access to abilities no human was meant to possess. She could feel her consciousness expanding beyond the confines of her physical form, perceiving the energy flows that permeated the chamber and the beings within it. The predator attacked from all directions simultaneously, tendrils of darkness lashing toward her transformed body. Lara created a shield of pure energy, deflecting the initial assault, but the effort drained her rapidly. The crystal core's power was vast but finite, and her newly transformed body was still learning to channel it efficiently. Through her expanded perception, Lara sensed the collective watching from the chamber's periphery. It was communicating again, not with words, but with complex energy patterns that her transformed consciousness could now interpret directly. The message was clear. The predator could not be destroyed by direct confrontation. Its nature was too fundamental to the fabric of reality, a necessary counterbalance to the creative force the collective represented. But it could be wounded, weakened, forced to retreat long enough for the collective to escape and seek refuge elsewhere. To accomplish this, Lara would need to strike at the predator's core, its equivalent of the crystal heart she had absorbed. Unlike the collective's heart, which generated and stored energy, the predator's core was a singularity of consumption, a focal point where all absorbed energy was processed and converted. The challenge was reaching it. The predator's outer layers were designed to consume anything that touched them, making direct approach suicidal. But Lara's transformed body now shared properties with both the collective and, to a lesser extent, the predator itself. She might be able to penetrate its defenses where others could not. The decision formed in an instant. Lara dropped her energy shield and extended her crystalline arms directly into the predator's dark mass. The sensation was horrific, like plunging into absolute cold that burned worse than fire. Where her transformed flesh contacted the predator's substance, both began to disintegrate. Locked in a mutual destruction, neither was designed to survive. But Lara pushed deeper, ignoring the pain as portions of her arms dissolved into the predator's mass. Her consciousness extended through the connection, penetrating layers of alien perception and defense mechanisms. She was within the predator now, her awareness mapping its internal structure, even as her physical form suffered. At the center, she found what she sought, a pulsating void that was the inverse of the crystal core, a perfect negation that consumed rather than created. This was the predator's heart, the source of its consuming power. Focusing the last reserves of the crystal core's energy, Lara formed her partially dissolved hands into crystalline blades within the predator's body. With a surge of will that transcended her human limitations, she drove these blades into the void at the predator's center. The effect was catastrophic. The void core imploded, creating a vacuum that pulled Lara's consciousness along with it. For an eternal moment, she experienced the predator's essence, the endless hunger, the cold purpose of its existence, the billion-year journey across galaxies in search of energies to consume. Then, with a silent explosion that shook the entire cave system, the predator's form ruptured from within. Darkness gave way to blinding light as the energies it had consumed over centuries were released in an instant. The shockwave threw Lara across the chamber, her transformed body crashing into the crystalline wall with enough force to embed her within it. As consciousness faded, Lara became aware of the collective's presence surrounding her. It had survived, though greatly diminished, and was now examining her transformed state with what she interpreted as concern and wonder. The neural link between them strengthened one final time, conveying gratitude and something else, a request, an invitation to join with the collective, to become part of something greater than human existence could offer. In her last moments of awareness, Lara made her choice, shaped by her duty to the Alliance and to humanity, but also by the expanded understanding the crystal core had granted her. The universe was vaster and stranger than human science had imagined, filled with forms of life and consciousness that defied categorization. The knowledge she had gained could transform humanity's place in that universe, for better or worse. As darkness claimed her, Lara's final thought was a hope that those who found her would use that knowledge wisely. The observation deck of the Itera station was silent as the recording ended. The holographic display showed the final moments captured by Colonel Lara Kent's suit telemetry before transmission had ceased. A blinding flash, then static. Elandra Sui stood motionless before the display, her expression unreadable. Behind her, the station's command staff and the surviving members of Lara's team waited for her assessment. The rescue mission to Epsilon Theta's surface had returned an hour earlier, bringing with them the transformed body of Colonel Kent and something else, a crystalline sphere extracted from what remained of her chest cavity. "Play it again," Elandra ordered, her voice steady despite the horror they had witnessed. "Focus on the moment of extraction." The display flickered, then showed the rescue team in the crystal cave. Lara's body was partially embedded in the wall, her form grotesquely transformed. Where human tissue should have been, crystalline structures had formed, giving her the appearance of a statue caught in mid-transformation. Only her face remained recognizable, frozen in an expression of pain and transcendent understanding. The team's medical officer approached the body cautiously, scanning equipment extended. "Life signs negative," came her recorded voice. "Biological transformation appears complete and irreversible. Cellular structure no longer registers as human." The officer moved closer, her scanner focusing on Lara's chest. detecting unusual energy signature, concentrated in the thoracic cavity. What followed was a procedure that would haunt the dreams of everyone who witnessed it. Using specialized cutting tools, the medical team carefully opened the crystalline structure that had once been Lara Kent's chest. Within, pulsating with the same rhythmic light they had observed in the crystal tree, was a perfect sphere, the heart of the collective, transformed by its integration with human biology into something new. As they extracted it, the sphere's light dimmed momentarily, then flared with renewed intensity. Patterns played across its surface, complex geometries that shifted and evolved even as they watched. "It's alive," whispered one of the technicians. "And I think it's watching us." The recording ended, freezing on an image of the sphere being placed in a containment unit for transport back to the station. Alandra turned to face the assembled crew. "The Alliance Council has been briefed on our findings," she announced. "The official position is that Colonel Kent's mission was a qualified success. The cellular morphing technology has been proven viable in extreme environments, and the biological samples recovered will advance our understanding of alien life forms." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the group. Milo Tran stepped forward, his face tight with barely controlled anger. "That's it? Lara sacrificed herself fighting a cosmic entity to protect us all, and they're calling it a qualified success? What about the Predator? What about the collective? What about the fact that the heart is still active?" Alandra's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "The full report contains those details, Milo. But the Council has classified everything related to the Predator entity under Omega Protocol. As far as the public and most of the Alliance military are concerned, Colonel Kent encountered an unusual, but ultimately manageable alien life form that resulted in her heroic sacrifice." "And the heart?" Milo pressed, gesturing toward the secured laboratory where the crystalline sphere was being held. "That," Alandra replied, her voice dropping, "is now the property of Advanced Biological Research Division. A new facility is being constructed in the Proxima system to study it under maximum security protocols." The implication was clear. The Alliance intended to weaponize the knowledge and power contained within the crystalline heart. Regardless of the risks Lara had identified, the Predator might have been wounded. But according to her final transmissions, such entities were fundamental to the cosmos. Where one existed, others would follow. "We're making a mistake," Milo said quietly. "Lara didn't sacrifice herself so we could create new weapons. She wanted us to understand, to expand our knowledge of the universe." "That's not our decision to make," Alandra responded, though her tone suggested she might share his concerns. "Our orders are to complete our analysis, transfer the artifact to the Proxima facility, and return to Alliance space for debriefing." The meeting dispersed, the crew returning to their duties with subdued efficiency. Only Milo remained on the observation deck, staring out at the desolate surface of Epsilon Theta below. Somewhere on that barren world, what remained of the collective was rebuilding, using the knowledge it had gained from its brief connection with humanity. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the wounded Predator was recovering, its hunger undiminished. It would return, drawn by the energy signature of its stolen heart, now pulsing in the secure laboratory of the Atera station. In the laboratory, under the watchful eyes of automated security systems, the crystalline sphere pulsed with internal light. Patterns played across its surface, too complex for human minds to interpret without assistance. But if one looked closely, with the right equipment and perspective, one might discern a recurring sequence, a pattern that resembled human DNA intertwined with something utterly alien. Within the heart, something new was forming, neither human nor collective, neither creator nor consumer, but a synthesis that might one day bridge the gap between fundamentally different forms of existence. It was Lara Kent's final legacy, a gift and a warning to the species she had left behind. The heart pulsed once more, slightly stronger than before. In the darkness of the laboratory, a single monitoring system registered the change, logging it for later analysis. By the time anyone reviewed the data, it would be too late. The transformation had already begun. Above the planet, interstellar observers from a dozen species watched in silence as humanity took its first steps down a path they had all traveled before. Some felt hope, others dread. All recognized the moment for what it was, a turning point from which there could be no return. The cosmic dance continued, predators and prey, creators and consumers, all playing their parts in a universe far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. And at the center of it all, a human heart transformed into something new, a spark of potential that would echo across the stars for generations to come.